So, today I want to talk about philosophy. Yeah, so recently I've been getting this one person in my Instagram reels. His name is Aaron Vachiainen. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's Finnish, so it's a bit difficult for me. But that's like let's call him Aaron. I guess that's his name. So he's kind of like a philosopher, I would say. I mean, I'm not really sure about his background, but the type of videos he makes is very interesting and very whimsical in a sense, and they really make me think about stuff, like it really makes me wonder about how his brain really works, because the things he says is very interesting and profound, I would say, like very wise. And that kind of like it kind of made me also want to think like that. So I kind of uh, like try to change how I think in order to think like him, and like think like a philosopher basically. But like when I really looked into it, I realized that I'm kind of already a philosopher, because philosophers are kind of just people who just think in like non-conventional ways, in like ways that people usually don't think about. And I realized that that kind of applies to me already, and also to other people as well, like most other people. Everyone has their own way of thinking. No one can think like one to one, identically. Even twins aren't identical in thought. Thought is the only thing that divides us as individuals. I think that's what what's his name, Rene Descartes, kind of also meant. I think, therefore I am. That's how I would like to take it here. The reason I am is because I think, and I think differently from other people, because the way I think is unique to me. Sure, we can have agreements on certain things, like roses are red, violets are blue, but we still don't think the same way. We agree on it, but that does not mean that everything else would be the same as well. Like, sure, I could say roses are red, you would agree on it, but it's not necessary that you agree that the violets are blue. You could say violets are violets. And that's the uniqueness. That's the thing that makes us us, Like that's what kind of makes us philosophers basically, because we can never think the same way as another person, no matter how much we try. Like I can read every Albert Camus books like 10 times or like 100 times, and I still won't think like him. I will agree with him, and I will um sort of adopt his philosophy, but that does not mean I think like him. I do not. I will never think like him, because I am me, and my thoughts are unique to me, because we have experiences that are unique to us. Those experiences shape our thought, right? So Albert Camus has experienced so much that I haven't, and even though I can read about him and read his books and everything, I will never be able to experience what he experienced, because he was his own individual, and I am my own individual as well, and no one else will be able to experience what I've experienced, no matter how much I talk about it, write about it, or do whatever about it. Even if I record my whole life from like start to finish, no one will be able to experience it from my perspective. Everyone will have their own thought, and that's what makes us us, like I said. And it's not just unique to humans either. Um, everyone has, I mean, most of other animals have eyes if we don't include the blind mole. Um, most animals have their own thought either, as well. I mean, and I say most, but I actually mean every animal has their own thought. Everything that lives has their own thought. I would say that a tree also has its own thought. It might, I mean, seeing from a human perspective, we will say that trees don't have as complex as thoughts we would have, but again, we cannot experience as them, right? So we, who are we to say that trees are not as smart as us? They might be. I mean, they're older than us, so they probably are as well. They don't just they just don't show it as much as we like to. They're more humble, I would say, unlike us humans who are just trying our best to show how smart we are every day, because that's what we're like wired to do, I would say. Schools and everything, competition, everything has been made a competition, so that is why. But trees don't have intellectual competition as much as they do for survival, I would say. Because I mean, trees also compete. They compete for nutrients, so they're in a state of like trying to compete for survival. But um, because of that, they don't really have much time to compete intellectually. So they just don't show it, or like I said, they just could be very, very humble and just don't show it as much as they would like to. Yeah. Even like the creatures we consider as dumb are actually very smart in their own way, because the way we classify as dumb or smart is very limited, because we are limited beings. We don't have capability to like account for everything that could be possible. That is that is one issue we have as humans and as beings. um I think like any other being would also have the same issue, because we're just limited to what we can sense, like physically or mentally or psychologically, or in any other way. We're limited to what we can sense. Like even a scientific proof is basically something you sense, right? So we're limited to that, and we kind of just stick to that. So we like don't think about the possibility that is beyond us, like how fishes could be very smart actually. And a few people do think about it a little. That's why we now know that fishes are much smarter than we first thought, because there was a Japanese scientist who tested those things and figured out that fishes are actually very smart. And that's kind of um like what I'm talking about. The people who experimented before that Japanese scientist, they never even considered fishes to be like a priority. They never thought that fishes would be like sentient in air quotes, because technically everything is, if it can move, it's basically sentient. So they never even thought about it. And that Japanese scientist who was very passionate about fishes, he actually did think about it because it was in his expertise. He worked with fishes all the time. So he had the ability to think about it because it was not like a impossibility, because most other scientists, never really worked with fishes. They just worked with other animals, I guess. And to them it sounded like a outlandish thing for a fish to be smart, so they just didn't try it. And there has been so many experiments on animals, and most animals have been thought to be dumb because of how limited our studies were, because um, the way we studied them was in a very human aspect. We never considered their um, what habitat, that's the word. We never considered their habitat, or like their brain per se. Like we never considered what they might find important. So that is why we never really thought about it. And I think that is basically what philosophy is about. Like everyone has a philosopher in them. It's not something that you have to really work on. I mean, it is something you have to work on. What I want to say is it's not something that is impossible for you. It is not something that is impossible for us to do. We can be philosophers very easily. Well, not easily. Depends on what you mean by easy, of course. Anything can be easy if you believe it's easy, because it's also a human measurement. No one can tell what easy actually means. But what I mean is that philosophy is basically at least trying to think beyond that limit that we have. Because it is, sure, it is like a difficult thing to do, to think beyond what can be thought of as humans. But that's like what should, like what we should do, right? Because if we didn't do that, we wouldn't have like so many other things, because people just wouldn't be thinking about what could be beyond thinking, right? So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. And I would highly recommend you check out the person I mentioned, Aaron V. Let's just say, because I can't pronounce his last name. Um, I'll link him down below, his Instagram profile. He's very interesting. I think if you enjoy philosophy, you'd like watching him. Anyways, that's all. Bye.